Welcome to Road America. It's the second of a twin bill this weekend for the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup. Mark James, Nick Yeoman here in the broadcast booth. And Nick, let's give a lap leader summary from race number one yesterday. John Dean the second, John Dean the second, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, John Dean flat out dominated this race when it comes to purely leading laps, but it was anything but a show stinker because it was incredible watching some of the battling behind John Dean the second as he scored the victory from pole position yesterday in race number one. He's got the best seat in the house again, Mark James, as he will be the pole sitter for race number two. But, man, we just saw some incredible racing throughout the pack as there we saw, 10, 15 cars for most of that race within a couple seconds of the leader. Lots of jostling for position, and ultimately it was John Dean who held on for the win. Got a nice little lead there on that final lap and a half and was able to hold on. But I think we're going to see some alternate strategies today, Mark. I don't think drivers like Nathaniel Sparks and Nico Rieger, Robert Stout, Celine Roland, I don't think they're going to let John Dean flat out lead every single lap like he did yesterday.
Well, there's no question they were mixing it up plenty, and I think the busiest guys were probably the guys that are responsible for reworking the body on these race cars. Because as you mentioned, and I mean, you can go a little deeper in the field. You can go back through the top 20. I think we saw a lot of door handle to door handle racing yesterday.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A lot of rubbing around this 14-turn, 4-mile road course. A good day as well for some of the drivers that came into this weekend strong in the points. Nico Rieger was your points leader coming into this weekend. He keeps that points lead with a strong second-place finish yesterday. Celine Roland, the rookie driver in that Soul Red Mazda MX-5, has been right on the heels of Nico for most of this season. He had a strong third-place finish. So a lot of strong contenders up front yesterday, Mark, and as you mentioned, a lot of leaning on each other throughout the course of that 40-minute race yesterday.
I think tire management was the difference yesterday for John Dean the second. Let's face it. I mean, when you're out front, you can manage those tires. When you can manage those, it makes all the difference in the world. And John Dean was able to do that a bit better, I think, because of all the beating and banging and the mixing up that was going on from Rieger and Roland and Palermo and Lamb and on back.
Let's check in with the third member of our crew, Jake Query, who is pitside here at Road America as we're just moments away from going racing.
I had on a jacket yesterday for the outset of this race. That is not the case today. The temperature is nearly the same at 66 degrees, but the jacket isn't felt as necessary because we are under absolute sun-drenched conditions. There is nary a cloud in the sky. Yesterday was very overcast. The track temperature is an average of 77 degrees. Now, the warmest part of the track is the southwest corner of this track, the long straight that heads in before they go into an 8, 9, 10, kind of a keyhole type, long sweeping right-handed turn. In that area, the track temperature is up into the mid-80s, but it shouldn't be any sort of a major condition here as the field starts to navigate its way through now at very slow a pace compared to what we will see once they go racing. But it is a gorgeous day here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
Yesterday, John Dean II picked up the victory leading from flag to flag. We caught up with him after the race. Jake Query did as he picked up his first win of this 2018 season.
John Dean II, I had a slight mental hiccup at the beginning of the race and called you John Dean III. The reality is in this race, you're John Dean first. You had no mental hiccups. Congratulations. Welcome to Victory Lane.
Yeah, number 3 is not even 7 years old yet, so that'd be pretty interesting to see him out here leading. We put the car on the scales last night. I guess I knocked the toe out a little bit yesterday in practice. We didn't have time to change it for qualifying, but the car is pretty good. And my teammate, Nathaniel Sparks, he does a lot crewing and a lot on the setup, and he threw the car on the scales last night, and this is the best this car has ever driven. And I was fortunate enough to have raced here a lot and kind of learned what works and how to run defensively. And the tires were brilliant all the way to the end. I was able to kind of conserve them. And Celine, my teammate, and Nico were battling there at the end. I was able to get enough gap, and I was just trying to hang on to it long enough to cross the finish.
Over the course of the race, were you more worried about what Celine and Nico were doing, and were you watching them, or were you more worried simply about making sure your car was going where it needed to be?
for the first quarter of that last lap, I was scanning the mirrors like a maniac. I was looking more in the mirror than out the front. But I saw they were kind of battling, and I had a really good run off of, I think, turn 3. They were battling a little bit, and I had a little gap, and then I was just trying to say, okay, don't look at the mirrors, let's focus. And I ran absolutely as hard as I could that last lap, and I had a monster run out of the carousel. And when I looked up, I had enough gap. I knew I didn't have to run defensive into Canada, and I felt pretty confident. As long as I hit my marks, I was going to be good.
Heck of a run and a great place to get a win here at Road America.
Yeah. It's a little embarrassing because after I finished, I forgot to come to the podium, and everybody followed me downstairs.
Hey, you know what? You could say it's because it's been a while, but you know your way here, and maybe we'll see you again here this weekend.
I hope so. Thank you.
Happy to have with us Tony Laporta, third member of our broadcast crew. And Tony, I'm sure you'll echo our sentiments. What an incredible battle that we saw unfold before us here yesterday.
Yeah, the racing here in round 5 was a lot of fun to watch. And as Jake reported from pit lane, the weather is very different today. It's a lot sunnier out. It's a lot warmer. But these BF Goodrich tires, every set these guys bring to every track we go to, whether it was the rain in Austin, Texas, or the heat that we've got here this weekend, or the heat we're going to see in Mid-Ohio in a few weeks, the BFGs always hold up so well. John Dean, obviously, it didn't affect him. You heard him say in that interview, the toe was knocked out of the thing, and he still ran so well. He was able to lead lap to lap to lap to win the race. Sparky's going to be someone to watch, though. Championship point leader Nico Rieger, Robert Stout, man, the whole top 10 could easily win this race, guys. It is going to be a very exciting race. I can't wait to get this thing going.
Up front, it is John Dean the second, your pole sitter for race number 2. Nathaniel Sparks will start to his outside. Nico Rieger and Robert Stout in row 2. Row 3, Joey Bickers and Luke Oxner. In row 4, Hernan Palermo and Celine Roland. Row 5, Brian Ortiz and Todd Lamb. And Mark, you just look at the top 10 in those first 5 rows. There is a winner waiting in just about all of them as the best of the best in the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires. Starting up front, this is going to be a lot of fun as we go racing for 40 minutes. Pace car pulling off, Mark. We're coming up to turn 14, set to go racing here at Road America.
And I think row 4 is the row that I would watch at the green. That's Hernan Palermo in the 20 and the 87 of Celine Roland, 2 of the most aggressive young drivers in this series. And we'll see how patient they are and how patient they are not, Nick. Let's get us started as we climb up the hill toward the start-finish line.
Green flag waiting to be waved here at Road America. John Dean II trying to go back-to-back and possibly sweep the weekend. He's got Nathaniel Sparks, a former champion of this series, to his outside. Green flag in the air. We are racing at Road America in the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires. Dean on the inside, Sparks on the outside. Good jump for Dean in that black MX-5 as they make the approach to turn 1. Here comes Nico Rieger. He's going to take a look to the inside. Mark, there might have been some slight contact. Dean holds the lead out of turn 1.
Wasn't a lot of room there to make that pass, and Dean hugged the inside of that groove and stuck with P1. Sparks has the second position. Bickers and Oxner still battling it out for the third spot. After about 7 cars back, they're still in rows of 2, but nobody had anything for John Dean at the start. We see Nico Rieger has gone from the third spot to P2, so a good start for Nico Rieger in particular.
And Dean gets a nice run down the straightaway heading to turn number 5. Hernan Palermo in that green car takes a look to the outside of Bickers in the 34 car, wanting the third position. Robert Stout has got his Mazda pinned to the outside. He and that's Nathaniel Sparks going side by side looking for that 5th position. A good battle through turn number 6.
We told you we thought Palermo would be among those the most aggressive at the start, Nick. He started in the 7th position, and he's already worked his way up to 4th. So a great start for the driver of the 20 car, who was in contention all day long yesterday. And he's trying to track down Joey Bickers as they make that left-handed turn.
Good side-by-side battle with Robert Stout and Todd Lamb for about the 6th position as they race underneath the Johnsonville Bridge. Single file, though, the game plan for these drivers here through the first lap. Celine Roland in that Soul Red Mazda car has a nice run on Nathaniel Sparks just outside the top 5. It's still John Dean and then Rieger, followed by Bickers and Palermo, the top 4.
And Roland is trying to make the move in that little short straightaway as they work their way through the S's. He can't quite make the pass stick. trying to get a bumper underneath him, but he's about a half a car length back. Now he tightens up a little bit as it bends to the left some. Now Palermo wants that second spot. He goes side by side off the turn to the right-hander.
Boy, how about the guts for Palermo as he went from fourth to third around Bickers. That car got so sideways, Tony, as he nearly took the second position, moving into the top three. But boy, that car got so sideways.
Guys, Hernan Palermo came out of the race yesterday with a fourth-place finish, which is his highest finish ever in Global MX-5 Cup racing. He got the Masters class win. He's running in third right now. Speaking of John Doonan yesterday, he's cheering Hernan Palermo on as hard as he can because Hernan is having the best weekend of his MX-5 Cup career. He flies by us on the front straightaway right now, third. He's tracking Rieger for second. He looks great right now here at Road America.
Brooks Leal in the 31 car with a spin in 12, and he was able to get back underway. It resulted in only a local caution. We're taking a look at it on the replay. And he got outside and might have gotten a little help. He got into the runoff area, hit the grass, and again, fortunately, he was able to get that car back underway.
Yeah, boy, that was awful tight there as we see some of the battling a little bit further back for about third or fourth. Celine Roland and Joey Bickers going side by side. But yeah, good to hear that Leo got that car turned back around as everybody's still chasing John Dean. Nico Rieger took a nice little look heading into turn number one, but the front three get away. Mark, look at that hornet's nest from fourth on back.
4 cars bunched up, 5 cars bunched up together, running side by side. And the guy that's trying to win that battle is Celine Roland, trying to pick his way through the field. And as they all climb on the binders, that bunch starts to catch the front three. They start to pull away now, slide under the Corvette bridge. And while we keep an eye on this incredible battle, we'll go to pit road and hear from Jake Query.
Let's look, Mark, at what Roland just did on that last time by as you take a look at those cars, and that is you see that yellow and red curbing. We talked about this yesterday. Now, with these particular machines, you have the ability to go 3, maybe even 4 wide if you want to try to use that extension of the racetrack, that curbing, and we saw it happen a lot in Austin at the outset of the season. But the difference is here in Road America, that grip is just a little bit different and the track is not as wide. So one of the storylines, and I think John Dean kind of touched on it yesterday, you want to try to take advantage of that area, but you also want to look and see who is just behind you, because if you get too far out on that yellow and red that you see right there as they navigate their way through, be it the inside of the inside of the outside, those BF Goodrich start to grip just a little bit differently when they're not on that already laid down rubber, and that can cause, as we just saw, somebody to all of a sudden get too far out, and before you know it, there's a local caution.
Tony, Lamb and Sparks are absolutely wearing each other out.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Sparky came through the corner right there, it looks like he's got a little bit of damage to the right rear tire. The toe may be knocked out quite a bit. I'm surprised he's still going if it's as bad as it seems on camera. I'd like to get another shot of him coming down the straightaway. There we see him right there, about 7th in line in that pack. Not looking too bad right now. You see him right there out in front of the Lucas Oil Racing TV car. But maybe the damage isn't as bad as I first thought when we saw it on camera, but it really looked like that right rear tire's toe was knocked out pretty significantly, but obviously not affecting him too bad. Oh, Celine Roland slows down quite a bit coming down the front straightaway. Trouble with the 87.
Yeah, and he got to the top of the hill, he crested the hill, and all of a sudden it was though somebody hit the kill switch or something. I mean, he had cleared that pack. He had been in that battle, a lot of contact there for Roland, Nick, and then all of a sudden when he got to the top of the hill, something happened to that race car.
Yeah, got absolutely freight trained down the front straightaway, and he's doing the veteran move to move over and let the faster cars by. But what it did is it bunched up this pack. Brian Ortiz gets to the inside of Nathaniel Sparks, gets a good little shot at corner exit, and now he'll go side by side with Robert Stout. Meanwhile, good battle for third as Joey Bickers and Hernan Palermo, Mark, go side by side down the hill towards turn 5.
The 84 of Lamb and the 8 of Sparks, that dust up that resulted in that damage, is getting a look-see by race control, and we'll keep an eye on that. You remember there was an incident with a couple of cars yesterday in race control deciding at the end of the race that some positions would be inverted. So they're letting them race, but they don't want them to get carried away for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you expect these guys to lean on each other because the racing is just so tight and you can't get away from each other with these cars being so evenly matched. But you also have to monitor and make sure that nobody's driving too maliciously out there. So far, I think it's just been good, hard competition. As we see a little bit further back, Nathaniel Sparks, that 8 car, really starting to struggle. Started on the outside of the front row, and last lap he has dropped all the way to the 7th position. It looks like he's lost a couple more spots falling through the field for Nathaniel Sparks. Sparks in car 8.
They're getting ready to complete lap number 3. We're 7 minutes into this 45-minute event. We'll give you the top 10. John Dean, the second, is first. In the 16, the 01 of Rieger is second. Palermo in the 20 is third. Bickers in the 34 is fourth. The 87 of Roland was last listed as fifth. He's tumbled down, so we'll put Lamb in that position. Then Sparks in the 8th, the 28 of Stout. The 4 of Ortiz, the 77 of Oxner, and the 95 of Bernanke. Nick, that's your top 10 as they run now, getting ready to complete 3 laps.
Yep, exiting Canada corner, back up the hill. It is John Dean the second. Led every lap yesterday, has not been challenged for the lead yet today, with Nico Rieger, the points leader, here in the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup, presented by BF Goodrich Tires. Up the front straightaway. Here's a replay. This is down Kettle Bottoms, and we saw something kick up off of one of those race cars. It's either off of Dean or off of Rieger's car. Something kicks up in the air, and it looks like Todd Lamb runs it over. Well, hopefully everything buttoned up on those race cars, because you never want to see some debris out on the racetrack. Up front, though, Mark, front 3 make their way to turn number 1.
And we're seeing Todd Lamb. He sees Palermo slip in front of him. They're going to go nose to tail. He's going to grab the 4th spot, but we should let you know the 84 has notified. The 84 has been notified by race control. That's Todd Lamb. They're watching his avoidable contact. So the 84 under the watchful eye of race control.
Yeah, and we saw when he was racing with Nathaniel Sparks, there wasn't a lot of give and take as those two were rubbing a little sheet metal around this racetrack, no doubt about it. Up front, John Dean leads that pack of train underneath the Sargento Bridge, heading to turn number 5. Rieger's getting a good push from Hernan Palermo, and Lamb all of a sudden is the guy on the outside, and we see a little bit of flapping from the right rear of Nico Rieger's 01 car in second, but here comes the the 84 Todd Lamb to the outside, challenging for second.
That piece that came off the car that we saw did in fact come off of the 01, but there was a surface flag as a result in turn number 11, according to race control, telling drivers look out for that surface flag that came off of the 01 of Rieger, and it's still in the racing groove.
Todd Lamb bearing down on the back of that 01 car of Nico Rieger. Further back, you see Nathaniel Sparks testing the outside. He's going to put the right sides off the racetrack. And, Tony, that's the cool thing about Road America. I mean, there is a lot of areas of this racetrack where there maybe once was grass and now there's dirt, because these drivers have just tested, whether it be in MX-5 or Indycar over the years, where you can run these cars a little wide.
You're exactly right, Nick. The fact that these MX-5 Cup cars are set up so evenly and so squarely, they can run a little wide, they can drop a tire, and it doesn't affect the suspension too much. They're able to use up the entire racetrack, and as you guys know from calling so much racing all year long, it's momentum based, and that is the epitome of MX-5 Cup racing. You need to keep your momentum up in these cars, and so how do you do that? You swing wide on corner exit, you dive down in on corner entry, you use up the entire racetrack. As we got a battle for the lead going on right here, John Dean isn't going to have such an easy day. Looks like Nico Rieger's bringing the fight to him, Mark.
Yep, Nico Rieger, John Dean going side by side. The 01 of Rieger, again, that car with a little bit of damage on it, but it's certainly not affecting the speed. Palermo, Bickers, others waiting to pounce. They come off of turn number 14 and start to make the climb up that hill. And for whatever the reason, John Dean the second, when he gets off of 14 and heads down the straightaway, that car is so bad fast. An update on Nico Rieger. Tony, you've got more on Nico.
Well, it was just funny. I saw these guys after MC in Victory Lane yesterday after round number 5. I talked to Nico. I said, what did you think about the race? He goes, the pace felt slow. John Dean knew that if he was out front, he could control the pace of this race. He said, I felt like he kept us all bottled up and battling. Those were Nico Rieger's words. He said, I definitely think in the last lap or two, John found a little something extra, turned it on, and took off. So Nico Rieger said the pace of the race yesterday was a little slow. Ever since this thing got about 2 or 3 laps in, guys, the pace has not felt slow at all, and John Dean no longer in control of this race. The 20-year-old out of Houston leading the way, Nick.
Boys,
he got freight train, did he?
Yeah, he did. John Dean got kicked back to 3rd or 4th, had one car trimmed a little grass. That looked like the 77 of Luke Oxner. But yeah, as we look for the leader, John Dean now been shuffled back to the 4th position. So move Rieger into the lead. Todd Lamb runs 2nd, Palermo 3rd, and then you've got John Dean, who had led every lap so far this weekend, kicked back to 4th. And now, Mark, things become a little bit different. We'll see how John Dean can handle traffic after being booted out of the top 3.
We do want to give an update. You know, there were some issues for Roland, some mechanical issues. He tumbled all the way way to 23rd, Nick, and that's a guy that was considered to be a championship contender, especially after we left the Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, it was just a fantastic start to the season as he won in his second race out at Circuit of the Americas. Certainly one of the championship contenders, came in second in points. And has had a really good season. Third at COTA in the race 1, picked up the victory in race 2 at Barber Motorsports Park. He had a pair of top 10 finishes, including a podium in race number 2. So that is a big hit for the rookie driver, Celine Roland, who I think has really impressed all of us so far this season.
Tony, let's talk a little bit about the good folks at Battery Tender. I'll tell you what, hold that thought, Tony. We'll get to that in just a minute. Let's hear from Celine Roland. Jake, unfortunately, his day is done.
Celine Roland is out of the car, and you were telling me this is one of those tricky gearbox issues, huh?
Yeah, man. I was up to third, started 8th, and I was making my way up, really confident with what was happening, but car got stuck in gear, so that was really unfortunate. I guess at this point, just got to be a race fan. I watched the race, not really happy about it, but I like racing, so.
Let's talk about, first off, just the race yesterday and some of the action that we saw. This track is one that drivers love. There's so much momentum on it. What are the challenges? What are the difficult parts or the enjoyable parts of Road America?
Well, my point of view yesterday was it was a team race. I was pushing John the whole time and basically being the buffer to John. So I'd obviously got the team to win, and Nico finally got by me with like 2 laps to go, and I think at that point we were battling so much that John got away, so we couldn't even battle, and I made a little mistake on the last lap, but you know, it was a team race, a lot of drafting, so it helps to have teammates. This race was going to work out well. It was probably going to work out similar to what was going on. I had John right there, and we were coming.
Another change for the lead now as Lamb is at the point. Last question for you, Celine Roland. Let's go back to Austin in round 1 and the way you were able to work your way all weekend through. How are you a different driver now in just this 4 rounds later? What have you learned about these cars? What has changed in terms of your driving style, if anything, once you've gotten familiar with them?
Man, I've learned that it's different than what I'm used to in Spec Miata. I mean, there's a lot of drafting, and I think that's what helped me in COTA. That's what's helping me here. But you got to really be slow with the hands. You have power steering, which is something I'm not used to, but just be really slow. And you know, I'm from karting, and karting you just throw the kart everywhere. So this is completely different. But you know, just learning the draft, learning when to make the move, and just knowing the fact that the field's so competitive.
I know obviously it's a disappointment to be out this early, but now you can be a race fan and at least for this event, watch the rest of it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much. See you next time. See you in Ohio.
Again, Celine Roland, that car 87 sits here along pit road and his day is done. Gearbox issue has knocked that rookie out here at Road America.
Seen some crazy racing, Mark, from about 5th or 6th on back. As we saw Robert Stout get super squirrely through turn number 7. How he held onto that race car, I'm not sure. They all try to get single file through the carousel. That's a tough part of the racetrack to go side by side. Up front, it is Todd Lamb who leads this race. John Dean has moved his way back into the second position as he actually gave the assist, pushed Lamb to the lead around Rieger. Rieger has fallen to the 3rd spot. He's looking for 2nd, though, as he popped to the outside, heading to Canada Corner, trying to get that 2nd spot mark away from Dean.
Front 4 going 2 by 2. Yeah, John Dean, he helped push him down the straightaway to P1 for sure. Talking about the 84 of Todd Lamb. And so John Dean not done. He's not going to lead wire to wire today, but he's certainly still very much in contention. Rieger tried to keep pace, get back up front. The one car I'm a little surprised about, again, that bright green machine, the fluorescent car of Hernan Palermo, in contention all day long, and he had gotten up as high as 3rd today, but now he's fallen off the pace a little bit. He's in that 2nd pack, still battling for position, though.
Here comes John Dean to the outside of Todd Lamb. They're side by side at the stripe. John Dean's your new race leader on that lap. Who gets to turn 1 first? It might be Joey Bickers as he's going to go to the inside. He'll pass them both going 3 wide. New leader into turn 1, Joey Bickers with one heck of a run, Mark Janes, as he takes the lead here at Road America.
Well, I think that the bottom of the racetrack just simply opened up, and that is the ideal line through that particular turn. The guys that have tried to make the pass to the outside have gotten shoved off into the runoff area, gotten into the dirt, and lost a little bit of grip. So you got to give him a lot of credit, Joey Bickers, with an outstanding move inside of turn 1 to go to P1.
Joey Bickers, the driver from Moore Park, California, from Cumbie McAleer Racing. That's the team that won the championship 1 year ago, as he jumps to the lead here at Road America, as it is a 7-car pack into turn number 5. Vickers holds on to the lead, and it looks like it's Nico Rieger who moves up into the second spot as they're still going side by side. How about Brian Ortiz, Mark James? He's moved into the 4th position. That's a guy we saw win a lot of races, be very competitive last year, has yet to visit victory lane here in 2018, but he is hungry moving into the 4th spot.
Yeah, he's been hanging around in the top 5 most of the day, and he was in contention most of the day yesterday, even though we didn't talk about him much. And we talked about Palermo, who'd slipped back to 8. He, Henderson, Bernacki, and Luke Oxner, they were involved in a pretty good battle, and that was a side-by-side battle. And now all of a sudden, Nick, those guys have gone single file, nose to tail, and they've caught back up with that lead draft.
Boy, it just doesn't take long. You're right. It's Palermo leading kind of that second group that is quickly becoming part of that first group out of the carousel in that bright green car. Also, a big shout out to Nathaniel Sparks after getting shuffled out almost outside of the top 10 early in this race. He's clawed his way back and is now challenging Brian Ortiz to the outside for that 4th position. It is Joey Bickers who leads him into Canada corner. Rieger and Dean going side by side for second on corner exit.
Yep, Rieger and Dean get shoved off the edge of the racetrack. Dean trying to hold on to that spot. Doesn't look like he's going to do it. He may slip back to 3rd, Nick. So just when we think they're going to go single file and settle in for a little bit, they start bunching up again. And look at that. From about 4th on back, it's 2x2.
Yeah, but here comes the fun part. Back out on the front straightaway. This is where the drafting begins. It's a nice lead for Joey Bickers as he races back up the hill with 21 and a half minutes to go here in this race. But if they can get tightened up and start drafting down the front straightaway, we see Ortiz leading a bit of a train. You always get that nice run down into turn number 1. Still blown away, though, Mark, by the lead that Bickers grabbed 1 lap ago in this corner.
He's got that lead up to a half a second, which certainly isn't safe, as we see Ortiz and Rieger going side by side. A car forced wide into the runoff area, now trying to keep up with that lead pack.
Yeah, that was Brian Ortiz who went flying wide out of exit turn number 1. He got it back into the racetrack and holds down the 6th position. And look at that, more dust kicked up at the exit of turn number 4 as they start to head back down the hill. It's been impressive for Bickers, but he looks like he's got a challenger tucked up right behind him. It's the 84 of Todd Lamb, who looks like he may take a peek to the outside. Nope, he'll get on the brakes, and they'll go single file through turn number 5.
Yeah, John Dean the second, Ortiz and Rieger all bunch up behind him, so the top 5 start to pull away from that second pack just a little bit as they head up the hill. And Dean is right there. And again, the guy that went wire to wire yesterday, he's got a whole gaggle of cars behind him. Palermo's day still not done. He's still beating in bangers. But it looks like Todd Lamb is just waiting for the slightest little mistake that Bickers might make in order to grab that spot. He makes an erratic move to the bottom. Bickers throws on the block, and Lamb's going to have to settle for second for now.
Further back, side-by-side action as the 77 of Luke Oxner has gotten that car to the inside. One car went really wide. Not exactly sure who that was. That might have been Nick Igdalski from, of course, the family that runs Pocono Speedway. Yeah, they're going to go side-by-side. Igdalski on the inside. Oxner is going to hold them off. And how about that 13 car, Mark? Yesterday, Robert Noaker had to sit and watch for much of the afternoon as he had issues, a flat tire. He's got that car now running just outside of the top 10 for the 14-year-old.
And that's where we have seen him most of the season. I mean, he's flirted with the top 10, and that's a great story, that 14-year-old kid, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert Noaker really is a surprising story. Showed up, met him at preseason testing back at Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama. And, you know, Robert's a quiet kid. He shows up. He's trying to make friends. He's trying to learn what he needs to, and he just goes to work. And, boy, it's been fun to watch him race. But this race has changed a lot from round 5 that we saw yesterday. I don't know the groundskeeping crew here at Road America, but I have to imagine they're going to be sending a bill to John Doonan for Mazda Motorsports, because these MX-5 Cup cars are cutting the grass, and not the way that I think they normally cut it here at Road America. This pace has picked up significantly from the racing we saw yesterday, guys.
And Nick Yeoman, we have a new leader this time by. We say that for now. It's the 84 of Lamb, but it looks like that success might be short-lived.
Yeah, Lamb's got the help of Nico Rieger pushing him in second. Interested to see Joey Bickers still take a look to the outside and go one car on 2. He swings to the outside. He might be able to get Rieger. Boy, they're going to go side by side exiting turn number 1. It looks like Lamb will hold them off, Mark Janes, at least for now.
Yep, they're still door handle to door handle, and Bickers, seeing that bender to the right, had to let off of it just a little bit, and as he does so, that's allowed the pack behind him to catch up a little bit. So they'll clear the Sargento Bridge and head for that very tricky turn 5, and that's when things get interesting, when they climb all the binders and start to make that left-hander before they go back up the hill.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We see Nathaniel Sparks take a peek in that white and green car. Lamb's got the lead, but here comes Bickers to the outside. They'll go wheel to wheel. He's going to go the long way around. Got to the apex. That car slid a little wide, lost the grip, and Todd Lamb holds him off back up the hill underneath into turn 6.
And that is it exactly. When you go to the high side like that, you get out there in the runoff area, you're going to lose that grip. We see it time and time again. Takes a pretty stout car to make that pass stick, Nick.
Well, Jake Query, the racing here in the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich has been absolutely fantastic, and the man who's in charge of making sure that this motorsports program for Mazda continues to be healthy is John Doonan, and you're standing by with him on pit lane.
I think I'm standing next to the happiest and most jovial guy at Road America right now, John Doonan, the director for Mazda Motorsports, because you get to kind of just sit and watch, and I'll tell you what, this is fantastic racing. And you're just sitting here almost giggling your way through it.
It is funny, and thank goodness we have you and the staff up in the booth to call this thing. I think a second ago I told you the 2 champions were leading, and I think they're back to 10th or 12th now. If the fans around here don't like this, there's something wrong. This is Road America at its best, and this is MX-5 Cup at its best.
Once again, seeing that battle for the lead. Looks like Joey Bickers is going to try to hold on to it. Let me ask you this, John. We talked about this yesterday. The great thing about these cars is the fact that somebody's watching this, and you yourself, for example, you get that racing bug from time to time. Somebody doesn't even have to be a racer. They have the opportunity to go in and get one of these cars.
They do, and this has been a project that our executives have endorsed since day one, which is taking the MX-5 road car off the assembly line, and in 15 days, Long Road Racing, our partners out of North Carolina, build these cars all to the same spec with parts from MazdaMotorsports.com, and you can go racing. And we tried from day one to make this the best value in sports car racing. We've sold close to 200 cars. We're really proud of that, and we certainly hope to expand it. And anyone watching this realizes that you have the ability to come out here and compete on a level playing field.
The other thing that's great about this, as we see another change for the point there, is the fact that it appears as though these cars, whether it's in dirty air and you're getting a draft going, or whether you get to the front and you have clean air, they respond and run pretty reliably side by side.
They do, and I think I'm so proud of the talent in the first 15 cars here. These guys are racing close. They're putting on a great show for the fans. Racecraft here with drafting and making decisions and where you want to be on the last lap, or even going into turn 5, you're going to see more changes here. So it's terrific racing. The cars are really reliable, and we're really proud of it. And there goes another pass for the lead.
I think that's Joey Bickers. It's going to try to take that look to the outside, and then once again we see that balance. Boy, that's the fun of it, right? And you're okay with getting a bill for the landscaping, right?
Yeah, I don't mind the grass cutting. George Burgenthies is a good friend, so we'll work something out there. And I just, as close as the racing is, our parts program is really important. We don't like to sell parts because of incidents, and these guys are putting on a great show and keeping it clean the whole way.
Lastly, John, let me ask you. John Doonan is the director for Mazda Motorsports here, and we're watching this race at Road America, race 2 of the weekend. When it comes to this particular series, I love it because of the excitement of it, watching the side-by-side aspect of it, but it's fun to have it here at the Indycar events as well. We typically are calling Indycar and Indy Lights races. What a partnership, though, to be able to kind of link up on some of these circuits.
Absolutely fantastic. Jay Fry, Mark Miles, the entire staff at Indycar have blessed us by bringing professionalism to race control. We've got Kyle Novak as race director, same race director for Indycar, and I've heard in the paddock that guys like Will Power and Castro Nevis and those guys all get around a TV and watch this racing, and they're cheering for their favorite guys in this series. So we're proud to be part of the IndyCar family. Big crowds at these events, great venues, and we're thrilled to be able to bring this product here.
I know it's kind of your home track here. You grew up watching races here. We'll let you enjoy the remainder of this particular one, and as always, appreciate the time.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. John Doonan, again, the director for Mazda Motorsports, watching the last 13 minutes. And, guys, there might have been like 8 or 10 lead changes during the course of that conversation.
Yeah, I don't know how a guy's been in motorsports so long and he's so happy-go-lucky, Nick. That's what amazes me about John Doonan. He's one of the happiest guys on the face of the earth. I guess it's hard not to be when you have a product like this.
Oh, this is just so much fun to watch as these drivers slug it out around this racetrack. We saw a little contact between Robert Stout and Nathaniel Sparks. Now we see the second and fourth place cars take a look to the outside. Mark, I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, it's like watching a bunch of marbles in a blender thrown around this 4-mile road course.
Yep, and it just when you think that this thing has settled down a little bit, it gets crazy again. And, of course, the involvement that Mazda has in racing worldwide. But, you know, we've talked about everything from the chassis build to where you can buy these cars, how you can get involved. Pretty notable racer, Tony Laporta. Let's talk about the involvement that Max Pappas, for one, has in this series and what a significant role he plays in this series.
Yeah, when we kicked things off at Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham last year, a couple of rain races, we saw some guys get upside down. We had a great weekend, but we also got to have Max Pappas join us in the booth. John Doonan and Max both helped me call the race, and Max explained to us his involvement, through MPI, those steering wheels that they designed. That's a steering wheel that Max himself has complete control over, and it's the steering wheel mold, it's the steering wheel fit that he enjoyed in all of the cars that he raced over his long career. He's gone to work, he's built one, he's made it adaptable to any car, any kind of machine you're racing, and every MX-5 Cup car on this track today has an MPI steering wheel in it. It's a safe steering wheel, it's a comfortable steering wheel, it's an adaptable steering wheel. Max is here with Indycar every weekend. He's talking to the folks at Long Road Racing who build these MX-5 Cup cars, Mark, and every single MX-5 car you see on track right now has an MPI steering wheel in it, and Max Pappas is involved in the development of the safety of these cars.
You walk through all of these paddocks, Nick Yeoman, from MX-5 all the way up through the Mazda Road to Indy and the Verizon IndyCar Series. Always great to see Brian Herta, Max Pappas, Rick Mears, the list, Michael Andretti. The list goes on and on and on about racers continuing to stay involved and get back to motorsports.
Well, and I like what John Doonan talked about on some of these race weekends. Those guys also during the downtime can get in those motor coaches or in the paddock and watch some of this racing, and it's just incredible here at Mazda in this Mazda MX-5 Cup, watching these drivers duel around this racetrack. And certainly then, you're right, Mark. I mean, we've always seen it from the Mazda Road to Indy for some of those younger drivers to be able to pick the brains of the IndyCar team owners and engineers and drivers. It's a valuable thing, and I know that, like John talked about, they love the fact that MX-5 Cup is here on IndyCar weekend.
The 17 McCumbee McLear Racing, Albert Lukasik, has been ordered to serve a drive-through, and that's just to get him from getting in the middle of contention with the leaders. He's off the pace. He's a lap down, so they asked him to do a drive-through to give the field a chance to get by him so they could kind of slug it out, if you will, over the last 10 minutes of this event.
Another new leader is John Dean II has gone back to the point, and he's brought Nathaniel Sparks with him. So the two drivers that started on the front row certainly haven't stayed there because of the incredible racing, have fought their way back up to the front of the field. That kicks Joey Beckers back to the third spot. Robert Stout sits in fourth. Really nice run for Thomas Bernacchi as he has moved in to the fifth position, but he's trying to hold off. It looks like cars going 2 and 3 wide as they make their way down to turn number 5. Everyone, though, chasing John Dean.
And by the way, that 14-year-old we talked about that was flirting with the top 10, Mr. Nowaker, has worked his way into the top 10 now. Nick, he's running 10th again after being an early retiree yesterday.
Yep, and he is on the outside there right at the end of that train in that white and black car as he gets around the number 97 of Brian Henderson. There's Bernacchi. He slips around Todd Lamb, gets a bump. That car gets sideways into the grass. He's got to hold on to it. He's going to do a 180 and stop at the exit in the grass for Thomas Bernacchi. Oh, boy, heartbreak as the driver from Chicago, Illinois for Copeland Motorsports had a top 5 run going, Mark Janes, and that car sits spinning into the grass.
Battle for 5th, and he ends up in the grass, and fortunately he was able to whoa it up before he got all the way to the barrier, but he is going to tumble to the rear of the field, and a promising day goes away for the 95 car of Bernacchi.
And, Tony, obviously that was a wild spin, so we clipped a little bit more grass here at Road America.
The groundskeepers' heads continue to shake with these MX-5 Cup cars on track. They are beautiful race cars. They are not the best lawnmowers, though. I hope we keep them on track the rest of the day with just under 9 minutes to go. It's been really good racing. And, guys, if I can just quickly about John Doonan. Mark, you were joking about it off the mic during that interview. There is not a happier guy, and I know he's enjoying the racing right now. John Doonan, I can only describe as, we all work in racing. We all know people in the sport where some folks will say something good. We're going to see a replay right here, it looks like, Mark.
Yep, the 95, that's the car that got off course. We described it, Bernanke, and just drove it in too deep and lost all kind of grip and got off of the grass. And, again, fortunately, he was able to get it wound up. But, I mean, that's just an incident there where a couple of guys are battling for the same piece of real estate. And one guy has to look forward to race another day. As we see, the 42 is into the runoff area, and it looks like he might be buried against the tire barrier.
Ooh.
Yeah, that is Asen Rachev from Bulgaria for the Atlanta Speedworks team. And now we're going to get a full course caution here at Road America.
At the same point we had one yesterday, if I remember
right about, as they're going to have to retrieve that number 42 car, as you mentioned, that is in the sand trap up against the tire barriers. Tony did want to give you a chance to wrap up that point. You were just talking about John Doonan and the folks at Mazda.
No, it's something I always like to talk about. I don't think, Mark, you were definitely right. I don't think there's a happier or more go-lucky guy in the paddock every weekend than John Doonan. And the way I sum it up is, we all work in this sport. We all know folks in this industry, and we all have folks that'll say good things about us, and we all have folks that'll say, well, not so good things about us. And I don't think I know for a fact I've never met someone in the motorsports industry who has had a negative thing to say about John Doonan. So the fact that Global MX-5 Cup and the fact that Mazda Road to Indy is doing so well these days, guys, there's 71 Mazda-powered race cars on track here this weekend at Road America, and that is due to the work of John Doonan and his team at Mazda Motorsports, as well as the folks at Anderson Promotions. But I'll tell you this much. A lot of that doesn't get done without the positive attitude and leadership of John Doonan, and it is great to see such popular racing under his tutelage. It's awesome to see.
How competitive has this day been? Here we are with about 6.5 minutes to go in the race. We've had 6 lead changes. We've had 4 different leaders, but the total passes on track, 291.
That's ridiculous. That's just insane. I mean, watching these cars go 2 and 3 wide around this racetrack, it's just been absolutely incredible. Quite a bit more wild, Tony, as compared to what we saw yesterday. There's still lots of battling throughout the pack, but it's been from the front to the rear of the field today.
Yeah, obviously near 300 passes on track for position, guys. We went to Watkins Glen last year. There was a race where we had over 400 passes for position on track in a single 40-minute Global MX-5 Cup race. So yesterday was a bit of a not the best appetizer. Today the sun is out, the track's a little bit more slick. They're having a harder time keeping these cars between the white lines, and that encourages the kind of Global MX-5 Cup racing we are accustomed to seeing. And we're going to easily get 300 passes for position before this one is over. But stick with us, because the rest of the season, when we go to Mid-Ohio at the end of July, that race is going to be bonkers. I think you're going to see a ton of passes for position. That is just what you're used to seeing in Mazda racing.
Yeah, the run down to the keyhole and then exiting back to the S's. I mean, that's going to be prime positions for these cars to do a little drafting and make quite a few passes. As again, with just 5.5 minutes to go, they have got that number 42 car of Rachev moved out of the sand barriers. The driver from Bulgaria, his day comes up, ends a little bit quickly as he was running outside of the top 15. Really wasn't in contention for a win. But the good news, Mark James, is it does appear like, as they've gotten that car refired, so he will rejoin the action or probably head to pit lane here. The good news is we're going to get this race restarted and have a couple laps of action where these drivers will decide this race.
A couple laps of action. What leads you to believe that we're going to have a couple laps of action here? What
key word is action there, my friend.
That's going out on a limb if I ever heard it.
I mean,
that's going out on a limb, Nick. I like that. You're brave. I admire your style.
It's interesting to see John Dean the second P1 because I think he's showing his moxie because, as you said so aptly, he was never challenged yesterday. He's fallen back, I think, as far as fifth in this race, and yet here we find him right back to P1. That gives you an idea of his versatility, so for sure.
Yeah, I think he's really learned how to use that draft up the front straightaway. That's where we've seen the majority of the passes where these drivers have been able to lean on each other a little bit, bump draft their way down to turn one, and pull off some passes. As we reset and get one to go with just 4 minutes to go in this race, it is John Dean, your leader. Nathaniel Sparks runs in second. Joey Bickers is third. Robert Stout runs in fourth. Todd Lamb is in the fifth position. Brian Ortiz runs sixth. Hernan Palermo in that green car is seventh. Nico Rieger is eighth. Robert Noaker has moved up into the ninth position, and Luke Oxner, Tony, rounds out the top 10.
Guys, it's so cool to see Global MX-5 Cup racing on track here. And as John and Jake Query talked about, under the sanctioning of Indycar, and then they're being promoted by Anderson Promotions. And just so everybody here obviously knows that we're in road racing country, MX-5 Cup in the past couple years has been sanctioned and promoted by the SCCA. Well, now under this new program starting last season, being promoted by Anderson, being sanctioned by IndyCar, a lot of the guys have come over from the SCCA group. Keith Dalton and his crew of officials, tech guys, and pit lane workers have done phenomenal in the transitional period from going from the SCCA to IndyCar sanctioning. And Keith and his crew that are working pit lane right now, these guys tech the cars, they unload the trailer, they load everything up. They are the MX-5 Cup staff, and they do a phenomenal job. It's been great to see the transition. And honestly, while I wasn't around during the SCCA days, I think the racing is even better than it's ever been under SCCA. You see the on-track product, 212 passes for position in yesterday's race, nearing 300 in today's race. It's a team effort, and with IndyCar, Anderson, and the crew on pit lane, you really see the on-track product step up every weekend.
Going to get the white flag this time by the way, the 17 we told you just prior to the caution, the Kazik had been told to come to pit road. He was off the pace, and they worried he might interfere with the battle for the lead. And he refused, was black flagged, and now they've stopped scoring him. And you'll see the white flag this time by. So the 17 remains on course, but he is no longer being scored.
Yep, and he was out of contention anyways, down in the 21st position as we are set to go. Mark, how about a good old-fashioned one-lap shootout to decide the sixth race of the 2018 Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup season? And it's going to be John Dean who's going to try to hold on for dear life on this final lap.
And, he's got the field under control. That off of turn 14, we've seen his car look awfully strong today. And I think what he's hoping is that the rest of that field is going to get out of sorts immediately when they get to the start-finish line and maybe divide a little bit, start running side by side. Although we have seen instances, cars running nose to tail, they get that draft, they can freight train by that leader. This is going to be an interesting restart, and they'll see Paul Blevins when they crest the hill, the starter with the white flag and green flag in his hand. He's waving both, and one lap to go here at Road America, and it should be a wild one.
And with Dean as the leader, he controls the restart up the hill, and it looked like he was on the gas immediately out of turn 14. That strings him out just a bit, but it's Nathaniel Sparks running in second, right on the rear bumper of that MX-5. Dean holds the inside. Mark, if Sparks is going to get around him, he's going to have to make him do it on the outside.
He's not going to have any help going into turn number one. Sparks is right there. Now he drifts off about a half a lap while Stout and Bickers and Lamb mix it up behind him a little bit. John Dean the second with the field in tow. Sparks tries to make an erratic move in that little right-handed turn there. Can't get the job done. A car length of about 1.5 now as they head toward the Sargento Bridge. Front four single file. I don't know that that's necessarily bad news for Dean. I'm not sure they could draft him into the left-hander at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're single file, but everyone pushing so hard and wiggling on the exit of the corners that we didn't see a lot of that bump drafting heading down to turn number 5. Now Sparks, he's going to take a look to the inside. He gets on the brakes early. He's got Bickers looking to the inside. Bickers has got Stout to his outside as Robert Stout moves into the third position. Still, though, nobody challenging John Dean exiting turn number 6 as he's got Sparks, Stout, and then Bickers running 2 through 4.
Stout trying to stay in contention for a podium finish here, and as they work their way down that long straightaway, Dean is able to pull away just a little bit. Not able to do anything with him yet is Sparks, but Sparks is all over the rear of that race car.
Here they come out of the carousel. The 77 of Luke Oxner swings awful wide. Here's probably one of your final chances, though. Can they get the draft? And it looks like, Mark, Robert Stout is tucked right behind that white and green car of Nathaniel Sparks. If those two can get hooked up, they might have a chance to get John Dean headed to Canada Corner.
John Dean is going to make that car as wide as he possibly can. Again, this is a very fast portion of the racetrack. Not rumble strips there, just a little curbing, and they've been wearing that thing out all day long. He's right there on the bumper of John Dean as they make the little bender into the left-hand turn, and now Stout's going to try to make a move.
Yep, Stout pops to the outside, may try the crossover move, trying to grab second away from Nathaniel Sparks. Everyone trying to test the limits of that black number 16 for John Dean. They set up for turns 13 and 14 and to head back up the front straightaway. Sparks takes a look to the inside, still not close enough, Mark James, as they enter turn 14 back up the hill for the final time here at Road America.
And again, this is where John Dean II's car has been fast all day long. They are single file through the top 8 as they crest the hill. Can John Dean sweep the weekend here at Road America? Checkered flag is out, and he will go to victory lane and win both races here at Road America. Sparks finishes second, Stout third, Bickers fourth, Lamb completes the top 5, then Ortiz, Rigger, Palermo, Oxner, and Robert Noaker. After not finishing the race yesterday, the 14-year-old comes back to complete the top 10. What a finish, what a weekend it's been, Nick, for John Dean II.
Boy, he absolutely had to earn this one today, fighting from outside the top 5 back to the lead to score the win and sweep the weekend. That was an impressive run and an impressive final lap for John Dean II, holding on to win this race. Top 6, separated by 0.6 of a second. They were all over each other up the hill on this final lap, but it is Dean who picks up the win. Nathaniel Sparks starts second, finishes second, although he had to fight to get back into that second step of the podium as well. And then Robert Stout, a driver who has been looking for a good run this year, just one podium finish. Mark, he finds his second podium with a third-place run here at Road America.
Yep, good weekend for John Dean II for sure. And I guess the question would be at this point, Tony, I think we assume he might know where victory lane is today. He went straight back to the paddock yesterday, and everybody followed him. So I think he's going to try to do his best to get to victory lane today.
Yeah, I think he knows the way now. He kind of goofed up yesterday heading through the lower part of the paddock back to where MX-5 Cup is parked. But yeah, Mark, I think you're definitely right. He's going to know how to get there. And this is a bit of a coming out, or a re-coming out, as it were, for John Dean. He's been so successful in this MX-5 Cup program. It's good to see him get back on the top of victory lane. He was so excited yesterday when we brought him up to the top of that podium. And what a race today. Certainly the intensity picked up right from the get-go versus what we saw yesterday in round 5. And guys, this is just the halfway point of the championship for MX-5 Cup. From here, we head to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, where Indycar will be at the end of July. And then from there, we'll head to Portland, where Mazda Road to Indy wraps up their season. And then these guys will finish their championship battle at Monticello Motor Club. And that's going to be a very interesting weekend. A lot of MX-5 Cup support up in the Atlantic Northeast, so that's going to be a fun weekend. But as always, when we're here at Road America, one of the best weekends of the year, guys.
And while we're waiting to hear from our winner at Victory Lane with Jay Query, this is the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup. Let's talk about the commitment, Tony, real quick, of the Prelick family and what they've done with Battery Tender for the series.
Absolutely. The Prelick family are at every race. We're going to have them helping us out in Victory Lane here shortly. And it's so cool. They love this kind of racing. They've stepped up. They've supported it. They've developed a great relationship with the Anderson family from Anderson Promotions. And I honestly love seeing the Prelicks. They dig it. They love being here. They enjoy being a part of the festivities. They love the racing. Obviously, they wouldn't be a part of it if that weren't the case. And you guys talked about it yesterday. The Hard Charge Award, $1,000 goes to the driver. $1,000 goes towards that driver's crew chief. And that's an award that is given out every single race. And you guys hit on it yesterday. Eric Curran was our first Battery Tender Hard Charge Award winner at round 1 in Austin, Texas. To the sports car fans out there, that is Eric Curran of IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Prototype Racing lore. He came here. He came to Austin. He ran an MX-5 Cup race just for the fun of it. Got out of that car, guys. He was sweating. He was beat red. Even he admitted the racing is so intense here in MX-5 Cup. So the Battery Tender, $2,000 going out every single race to the winning driver and their crew chief. A lot of fun. It's been a great weekend here at Road America, guys.
We enjoy having Mo Murray in the booth with us, but we were in good hands with you in here today. We appreciate your contributions over the course of the weekend.
Well, guys, I can't say thank you enough for having me in here. It was phenomenal to call the racing. You guys are obviously great at what you do, so thanks. I'm going to run to Victory Lane, and you guys have a great rest of your weekend. It's going to get just better.
All right, see you soon. Safe travels. Thank you very much. Tony Laporta, happy to have him with us throughout the course of this weekend for sure. You heard him calling things for us from pit road and turn number 1 at Barber Motorsports Park. Nick, only 330 passes, by the way, during this race.
Yeah, pretty competitive. And how
Point, the cars are great. They never run hot, but you will start to notice the brakes get a little bit spongy, so you have to be real careful diving into these hard brake zones. It's really easy to overshoot them, and if you get out on the curb, sometimes it can knock the alignment out, and then you're struggling for the rest of the race.
Lastly, let me ask you, you have a sticker that I wanted to ask you about that's over the front left tire here on your machine. In loving tribute to somebody, take me through that.
Yeah, it's our team manager. He's back at the shop right now, and his father passed away from a heart attack last year. And it was a bummer because he had just retired, and we were excited he was going to come down to the shop and hang out with us, and then he had a sudden heart attack. So that was a tough time, and I want to say it was around this time last year.
Okay, as Stanley Little, right?
Yeah, Stanley Little.
Stanley Little back in 2017. In loving memory, it says, and he's smiling today because John Dean II wins for the second time in as many races here at Road America. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Guys?
Thank you so much, Jake Query. Great job down there covering the action on pit lane there in Victory Lane. A big thank you to Tony Laporta, and a great job by Mark Janes as well. Congratulations to John Dean, the winner here at Road America. Up next at Road America, it's Verizon IndyCar Series practice. And for you battery tender Global MX-5 Cup fans, the next time we'll see you is July 28th and 29th as that series races at Mid-Ohio. From Road America, congratulations to John Dean. We'll catch you later.